Okay, in this video we're going to create a data visualization which will allow us to find bias in the brackets. I'm using Tableau Public, a free data visualization tool, and the first thing that I'm going to do is connect to the data set. Okay, now the data set that we're using is a CSV file, okay, which Tableau considers a text file. So I click text file, and there's the data set I want. I hit open, okay, and we've got a pretty seamless connection here. And first thing we see is this data set, okay, and it's worth taking a look at it. Now, we're not going to use all of these variables, okay, so I'm just going to talk about a few. The first one, gender. We've got a male bracket and a female bracket, okay, and we can filter based upon that. The next thing that I think is important to realize is that when the 538 ran their simulations, they treated the play-in games as round one. Okay, so when we look at round one win probabilities, this column, we can see most of these teams have a 100% chance of advancing out of the play-in round. And that's because they didn't have to play a play-in game. Okay, so we're not going to focus on this column. Rather, we're going to be using round two win probability, which is the probability of each team winning the first, what most people consider to be the first round of the tournament. Okay, the round where everybody has to play a game. All right, so we're going to be using this variable pretty extensively. Notice that it gives the probability of each team winning in this first round. So each row of this data set is a different team. This top row, I believe, is the University of Houston. There it is. Okay, the second row, Alabama. Third row is Texas. And this is for the men's bracket. Okay, so we can see Houston has a 97% win probability in the first round. Alabama 98.5. But also note that these probabilities are given as a decimal, right? 0.973, 0.985. And in a moment, I'm going to want to change that to express it as a percentage, to express this as 97.3, for example. Team name. Okay, and then the other variable that we're going to be using in this video is this last one, the percentage of the public picking each team. So what this means is that 95.2% of brackets have picked Houston to win their first round game. Okay, and 96.6% of brackets have picked Alabama to win their first game. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to the first sheet here in Tableau, and we're kind of doing some exploratory analysis here. Okay, and it's one of the things that Tableau is very, very good at. So what I want to do for each team in the tournament, I want to compare their win probability in the opening round to the percentage of people who are picking them to win in the opening round. And if we can find differences in those values, then we're going to be finding bias in the brackets. Okay, so I am going to pull the percentage of public picking the team, that variable. I'm going to draw that into the y-axis. Okay. Next, I'm going to look at the round two win probability for each of these teams. But before I drag that in, I want to convert this one to a percentage. If you remember, Tableau or 538 gave me these as decimals, right? 0.97 win probability. I want that to be a 97% win probability. So I'm going to do what we call create a calculated field. And if I just click this down arrow and go to create a calculated field, I'm going to name it opening round win probability as a percentage. And what I need to do is take this variable round two win and simply multiply it by 100. Okay, and now it's this variable that I'm going to drag in to the x-axis. And when I do that, I only get one dot, which might be surprising, but what Tableau does, they've got a tendency to aggregate everything, okay? And indeed, what they've done right now is they've found the sum of each team's opening round win probability and the sum of this variable percentage of public picking the team in the first round. I don't want sums here. What I want rather is a dot for each team in the tournament, okay? So I need to tell Tableau specifically what level of detail I want here. Okay, so I'm going to drag in team name into detail, okay, and now I get a point for each team name, right? Still not exactly what I want because While some schools, the University of Colorado, for example, only has an entrant in the women's bracket, not in the men's. Okay, but other schools, like University of Alabama, have an entrant in both the male and the female tournament. And I want to separate that out. I want those two teams to be separate dots. So I'm also going to drag gender into detail here. Whoops. Drag gender into detail. Okay, and now I should have 128 dots here, some for male, some for female. Next thing that I'm going to do is I think I only want to look at the male bracket at a time, and then at other times be able to look just at the females. So I'm going to drag gender into filter. Okay, and I'm going to start, I just want to look at the women's bracket right now. Okay, so right now we've got the 64 women's entrants in here. And really what we want to do here is compare for each dot the team's Y coordinate with their X coordinate. And this point right here jumped out at me. And as I hover over it, I can see that this is the women's bracket, obviously. USC is the team. And USC is being picked by almost 61% of the brackets, but they've only got a 40% win probability. Okay, Southern Cal is overvalued here. And we can speculate as to why, right? Name recognition might be a big part of it. I'm suspecting that this is their opponent, South Dakota State. South Dakota State's only being picked by 39% of the brackets, yet they've got almost a 60% win probability. They are undervalued, okay? Might be worthwhile to choose South Dakota State in your bracket, okay? It's a way to distinguish your bracket from others, but still have a pretty high win probability here. Now, as I said before, really what we're doing is comparing each team's Y coordinate with their X coordinate. And to make that a little bit easier, I'm going to create another calculated field here. And I'm going to call this calculated field over or under valued. Okay? And what we're going to do is for each team, we are going to take the Y coordinate, okay, which is the percentage of public picking the team. So I start to type it and it pops up here. Don't want that first part. Okay, and from that we're going to subtract the round, what did I call it? Opening round win probability as a percentage. Okay, we're going to subtract these two. And if that number comes out to be positive, it means the Y coordinate is bigger than the X. It means the team is overvalued. More people are picking that team than they should be. Okay, and if this value comes out to be negative, it means that the team is undervalued. Okay, so I hit OK here. I've got this new variable. And what I'm going to do is drag it into color. Okay, and immediately we get kind of intriguing looking graph here. With the way that this is set up, well, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to choose this color here and edit. And I'm going to reverse the colors. And let me tell you why. To me, a team like Southern Cal here, right, they're overvalued. I like that to be red. The public is too hot on this team. Okay, so I'm going to choose red there. On the other side of this, South Dakota State, undervalued. I wanted them to be a dark blue. Okay, meaning the public is kind of cold on this team. All right, so with this thing color-coded, we can really start to see some interesting trends here. Florida Gulf Coast is undervalued. Okay, the difference between the Y coordinate and the X is almost 15% here. Okay, kind of interesting to see. All right, we also see a pattern that we've got a lot of orange and red down here. Okay, and what that means is that for these teams who have low win probabilities in the opening round, for some reason, people are picking them at much higher rates than they probably should. Okay, for example, St. John's here, almost 15% of people are picking them to win in the first round, but they've only got a 5.4% win probability. All right, for some reason, people are overvaluing. They're picking more upsets than they should down here. And on the flip side of that, the top-seeded teams, the best teams, okay, are a little bit undervalued, perhaps surprising here. Okay, 93.9% of people are picking South Carolina to win, but they've got a 99.97% win probability in the opening round. Interesting trends here. I wonder if these trends are also true in the men's bracket. Okay, well, if we go over here and edit our filter, I'm going to turn off the women's and just look at the men's. Okay, we see some similarities, some differences here. Okay, of note maybe, Missouri, very much overvalued. Okay, Utah State undervalued, Boise State undervalued, Drake, Furman. Okay, this might have something to do with name recognition and some of the other forms of bias that we saw, that we talked about in a previous discussion. Hope this helps you out. Tableau is a wonderful choice, and I hope you guys will choose to use it.